Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range with a 5.16. Now this is a 4.16. Now SIG has reintroduced the 5.16. They call it the G3 now. So it's been through some evolutionary changes, but there's no denying that the 5.16 that SIG is producing is heavily based on the H&K 4.16. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of crossover there on the engineering side. But let's take a look at the 5.16 G3 today, but we're going to start off today's video shooting the original, and this is an MR556 that's in a 5.16 configuration. Absolutely beautiful rifle. People have been trying to clone these for many years because HK simply wouldn't give us what we wanted, which is one of these, but that's an entirely different story and another video. So let's get started doing a little bit of shooting with this bad boy. Let's take a look at this new SIG rifle. I think you're going to like it. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. So before we get to the G3, let's take a look at one of the earlier 5.16s that SIG produced. And this would be an example of that. Now, it's been through a number of different iterary changes, so I don't have all of them, but I wanted to show you this rifle. This would have been one of the later production rifles before we got introduced to the new G3, which I promise I will show you here in a moment. But as you can tell, the original 5.16 has more of an AR-15 style to it. So you have an A2 style forward assist. This is going to change. The receiver is more AR-15-ish in terms of its cuts and dimensions. We do have fencing over here that's kind of ground flat. Looks a little different, but in a traditional style. And over here we did have ambi mag release, our ping pong paddle, but what is absent from this version of the gun is an ambi bolt stop bolt release. It's not here. Now we still have ambi fire controls, 1913 rail up here, of course the handguard, all that good stuff. Same short stroke gas piston in this rifle that is carried over into the new G3. But let's do a little bit of shooting with this guy, and then we're going to jump into the G3. Now, I already know what you guys are going to ask because I posted a short with the 5.16 earlier, and people were really talking about the jacket that I'm wearing. If you want one of these, yes, the camouflage pattern is from Red Dawn. This is not a real camo pattern. It's a movie camo pattern, but it's really cool. And the place I found it is a place called the Commando Store, spelled with a K. So I know a lot of you are going to want to go buy one of these, and that's where you can find it, the Commando Store, spelled with a K. All right, so let's do a little bit of shooting with this bad boy. Then I promise the G3 is next. All right, guys, so here it is. This is the new Sig Sauer 5.16 G3. Now, you may have seen this referred to as the Mohawk. They've dropped that name. It is simply the 5.16 G3. And so we'll talk a little bit about the differences between the original 5.16 and this current rifle, but they've made some pretty significant changes. We'll just kind of go over the rifle and its features, starting off with the buttstock, working our way up to the end of the muzzle, and kind of let you guys know what's going on with this new system. Now, if you're used to the existing 5.16, you're going to find that this rifle is probably, it's hard to put a percentage on it, 75–80%, similar to what you might be used to. Where you're going to find some differences, and they're fairly significant, is going to be in the charging system, but we'll get to that here in a moment. So back here, we have just a standard fare M4 receiver extension. So you have a standard, buffer tube here with a weighted buffer and recoil spring, and you're able to use it as mil spec. You're able to use whatever AR-15 style stock that you would like to put on here. Moving forward, we have ambi I guess you can call it ambi because they're present on both sides, QD mounts for sling mounting. So of course you have it back here on the factory stock. I'm not a fan of putting sling mounts back here. Here's where I normally would do it. You would find them on end plates, typically behind here, which can get in the way of the shooter's hand. So it's nice to have them on the sides of the receiver like this. Up here, you have a traditional castle nut, and you can see that SIG has properly staked that castle nut in place. Moving forward, we have our ambi charging handle here, so we can release the charging handle and charge it from either side of the weapon. And this is some of the stuff that I find really interesting about this particular rifle, is that the attention to detail, specifically with regards to high wear areas. And one of those high wear areas, which I have personally experienced myself, is where the T-handle clips onto the aluminum receiver of the rifle and locks it in the forward position. I've had the T-handles wear, the latches wear, or more specifically, the aluminum wear on the rifle. And I've shot rifles, and I think there might even be video out there where I'm firing it, and as I'm firing it, the charging handle comes back and punches me in the nose. Doesn't hurt, but it will make your eyes water. Well, what they've done is inserted steel pins, which are replaceable, into the receiver here for the latch to catch onto. And that steel pin is not going to wear as readily as aluminum. It's that little detail that I think is really interesting. Now moving forward, you'll notice that the receiver, the upper receiver, is considerably different from a standard AR-15, and therefore it's not a one-for-one. The lower receiver is, you would be able to pin a standard AR upper to this lower, but the upper is, for lack of a better term, proprietary. It's unique to this rifle, and the upper interfaces with the handguard in such a way that you're not going to be able to use aftermarket handguards with this particular rifle. Not yet, anyway, unless somebody makes one specifically for it. So moving forward, we have our ambi controls, which are carryover. So we have a little nubby selector lever over here, and then we have a more traditional style selector lever over here, a little bit larger. Standard takedown pins, unlike the HK, it doesn't require special tools that you have to release a lock to push them across. It's a standard AR-15 takedown tool. Since we're on this side of the rifle, move forward, we have our ambi controls. Actually, this is not ambi, but the mag release is. You'll see the ping pong paddle has been extended, has a bottom piece here and a top. So it's slightly different from your standard mil spec. You do have a standard trigger guard down here, does accept standard AR-15 triggers. You have an AR-15 pistol grip. This one does have a storage compartment in the grip itself, but if you want to swap it out with something else, you can certainly do that. And the 800-pound gorilla in the room, borrowed directly from the SIG Spear, side charging capabilities. When we get into the field strip, I'm going to show you something that's really cool about this. A lot of folks, when I posted some stuff on social media, complained about this, saying why a T-handle and a side charger. There is a method to the madness here, and I will explain that method to that madness. And it might make a little bit more sense to you once I talk about that. But since I have the charging handle to the rear here, you'll notice this is where traditionally on an AR-15, this would be your cam slot, where your cam pin rotates. That's a high wear area. SIG, again, has taken care to put steel inserts in here that are replaceable in this high wear area. So if you start to get wear on the receiver there, after high round counts, you can literally swap that out. The charging handle is non-reciprocating and does lock in the forward position. By non-reciprocating, I mean when you fire the weapon, it doesn't move. Back over on this side, you're going to find that it has an AccuWedge in it, so it's very tight. So I'm going to push down the receiver here a little bit and pop this pin out. You'll notice the forward assist is not a standard A2 style forward assist. It looks more like an MCX Spear LT forward assist. That is because, once I put the bolt home, it is. You can see the screws here. This is a replaceable part. You can take this out, put a different piece in here, like on my Rattler. It came without a forward assist. I may have this backwards, and I decided to put one on it. So you just order the piece and you put it on. If you don't want the forward assist, order the piece, and you can replace this without the forward assist and just have the case deflector up here. Nice touch. Standard AR-15 port cover. We'll get into the internals when we talk about field stripping. Another big change from the original is right here. This is your bolt stop bolt release. So you push up on it, pull the charging handle to the rear, push up, release, and it'll stay in the locked position. When you load the weapon, put a magazine in, reach up with your index finger, and drop that bolt. Standard fencing, flat ground, kind of like the original version I showed earlier in the video, and standard AR-15 magazine release. You'll notice there's a slightly different profile here to the Magwell, and we will show you that it works with different magazines here a little bit later in the video. All right, so Moving forward, you're going to know that you'll notice that the receiver seems a bit taller here and built up more here, so it interfaces smoothly with the handguard. If you take a look at the earlier 5/16s, it'll have a quad rail system on it that doesn't really integrate into the receiver. It just looks like it's slapped on there. They have tried to make this a smooth transition from the receiver to the handguard. And this goes to my point that this is not a standard handguard that can be replaced with the Midwest Industries rail system or something like that. It's going to be proprietary to this rifle. Good news is M-LOK slots all the way down in every possible imaginable position. So you're going to have plenty of options for mounting accessories. It's also worth noting that you have a very large tongue here that interfaces with the receiver from the handguard. It's anti-rotational and it does fit very tightly. So you're not going to have to worry about putting PEX and, magnifier or night vision extensions out here. Like if you want to run a night vision unit in front of your optic, you mount stuff like that out here. You're not going to have to worry about banging it, knocking it out of alignment. It seems to be very rigid. Moving forward, we have a adjustable gas system. And so we have multiple positions, unlike the H&K A4 that we recently reviewed, where you have suppressed and unsuppressed settings. This will have a standard setting, an adverse setting, a suppressed setting, and then an off setting. So you have 4 different positions on the gas regulator. And when we field strip it, you'll see what the gas system looks like. We have a 16-inch barrel here, like 16.1 inches. It is cold hammer forged. It's FNC treated. I have a whole article out there now talking about nitride treated barrels versus chrome lined barrels and the benefits of it. Some of the folks have complained about this rifle not having a chrome lined barrel. I detail why so many people in the industry, not just SIG, are moving to FNC/nitrided barrels and parts and moving away from chrome. There's good reason for that. And I'll link to that article in the video description down below so you can read all about this FNC finish and how it benefits the rifle. All right, so we have a 1-in-7 twist, cold hammer forged barrel, FNC nitride treated, and out on the end here, you'll notice it has a muzzle device, flash suppressor, and you'll notice these holes drilled in the top that are not present on the bottom. And that is a brake that's going to divert those gases upward, pushing the barrel downward to compensate for what little recoil this rifle has. Now, talking about that gas system in its standard setting, this thing is smooth as glass. I'll throw up some video showing you guys us doing some mag dumps here. The gun shoots extremely flat. You'll know, going back in my old video library, I'm a DI guy. I don't see any problems with DI. The poops where it eats crowd. I think I've disproved any of the concerns there with my 10,000 round not cleaning my BCM test that we recently finished. I'm a DI guy. And one of the things I've always disliked about gas piston guns, especially short stroke gas piston guns, not long stroke, the short stroke gas piston guns tend to be punchy. And you can tell a definite recoil difference between a short stroke gas piston and a DI gun, with the DIs being very, very smooth rifles. Well, that doesn't seem to be an issue with this particular gun. Much like the HK, it seems like folks that are making these short stroke gas piston rifles have started to get that gas system tuned to the point where you can actually shoot it and not feel that punchiness to it. What I like about this is I do have an adverse setting. Now, we did a sand test, I call it a moon dust test, on the HK, and it kind of had a hard time once sand got into the action. It didn't have an adverse setting. If it had an adverse setting, we probably would have gotten a different outcome. This has that adverse setting, which means it's going to overgas the rifle. That overgas is to push debris and stuff out of the way so the gun can continue to work in those adverse situations. All right, I think I've covered off on everything. You're probably going to ask about the optics that are on here. This is the Sig Sauer 3x magnifier. This is the new Romeo 8T AMR, and we'll do a separate video. Comment down below if you want to learn more about these optics, and we can talk about them later. That's not what this video is about, but you can see it has night vision setting and your power buttons and all that stuff. It's a nice setup. I imagine this new 8T is going to be just as popular, if not more so. Finally, the price on this bad boy. This thing, I've seen it online for about $1,900, so the prices are going to vary. They're just now starting to get onto the market. So it's going to come to market significantly less than the MCX/Speer LT. This is going to be an affordable option to it, but have many of the same features, which I've already talked about. And so it's going to give you an entry point into the short stroke gas piston AR world without having to drop $3,000+. If you want to get into the H&Ks, you're looking at $3,500+ for that particular rifle. This is going to come to market significantly cheaper. less expensive, I should say. In terms of the quality and stuff like that, when we close out the video, I'll give you my final thoughts. But let's do some shooting with the rifle and show you guys just how flat this thing shoots. I'll talk a little bit about the accuracy. We've put a couple hundred rounds through it so far. We haven't fully tested this rifle just yet. I was just excited to get out here and make a video with it to show you guys this rifle, because the more I look at it, the more I play with it, the more interested I become in this particular short stroke gas piston AR, which is interesting for me because I'm not a big fan of short stroke gas piston ARs. All right, so let's take this thing apart and take a look on the inside and do a minor comparison, or let's just say a quick comparison to the original 516 and some of those changes that you're going to find in this new rifle. I also want to start off by saying I want to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition free of charge to the channel. That's the ammunition we're shooting out here today. I've been shooting this stuff since I was a kid. Outstanding company, outstanding ammo, and I love Federal. All right. Taking her apart. First, you want to make sure the weapon is clear. Notice there's no magazine in there. I'm going to go ahead and use my T-handle and make sure that the weapon's clear. Check that chamber, and she's clear. The bolt does need to be home to continue. Now, the rifle comes from the factory with an AccuEdge in there, so it's going to have a very tight fit between the upper and lower. So unless you take the AccuEdge out, you're probably going to need a tool like a bullet tip to get your pin started on its way out. So I pop the pin out, and it hinges open. Inside there, you can see the little black AccuEdge right there, which you can easily remove if you don't want it in there. Now I'm going to grab the T-handle, pull the bolt and carrier out, set that aside, drop my T-handle out. And while I'm going through this process, let me show you something. So let's say you don't like the side charging system. All I have to do is pull the side charger to the rear, lift up slightly, and it will come right off. And there will be a polymer piece that will slide in here. It doesn't come with the rifle, at least not right now, but it is available, and you can slide that little polymer piece in, which will then seal that gap so no debris can get into the rifle. And so there you have it. So you can get rid of the side charging system. Now, it only makes sense that they would take it a step further. And if you want to run the side charger, you'll be able to remove your T-handle, and it'd be kind of cool if they had like a little plug or something in there that you could plug it. And then if you did that, and let's say you run a baffled suppressor with a lot of back pressure, well, if you were to plug this area and run your side charger, you would get far less gas in the face, wouldn't you? Almost seems like maybe they thought about that a little bit. But anyway, okay. So let's go ahead and set this aside for the moment. I'll talk about the gas system here in a second. So there are the pieces to the side charger. You don't need to take that off for standard field maintenance. I just did that to demonstrate. So here is our bolt and carrier group. And if you take a look at it next to the earlier 516, you'll notice, at least from a cursory inspection, they look identical, but there are significant changes to the gun, all right, to these components. First of all, if I rotate them around, this is the G3, this is the original. You'll notice this big slot here in the side. That is a firing pin safety. And this is something that you're going to find in the original H&K 416. It's just on the top. This is on the side. You're going to find it in other SIG rifles as well. It's just an added safety. You'll also notice that this has the auto sear trip left in place. Notice it's absent from the earlier rifle. This is the earlier bolt carrier. So people have asked in some of my posts if it'll work with a super safety. I haven't put a super safety in the gun, but I'm assuming because this is present, it should probably work just fine with a super safety. Now you also notice on the bottom side of the carrier, there's a hole, like a vent hole present here. And that's perhaps to vent overpressured gases if you pop a primer or something like that, to vent them down safely away from the shooter. That's not present on the other, or the original carrier. I'm assuming what that function is. I don't know for sure. I'm just making an educated guess, or perhaps not so educated. You'll notice back here on the carrier, it's raised, and this is an anti-tilt carrier because your fulcrum is right around here on the carrier where it wants to normally balance. And when you whack something up top, off center, it's naturally going to push the rear down. And that can cause damage to the lower receiver and cause reliability issues. And so that's why you have this tapered, larger area back here from a standard DI gas gun. All right. Moving forward, we do have a spring on the firing pin, which has been added. The original does not, has a standard AR-15 style bolt and firing pin in it. We'll show you some pictures of that disassembled. This also, the original uses a cotter pin like a standard mil-spec AR-15, and that has now gone away, and we have a captive pin, which I much prefer, that holds the firing pin and firing pin spring in place. You'll also notice that the cam pin has a unique hourglass cut to it, which is different from the original. And when we take this bolt and carrier apart, you'll see that they've made some additional modifications to that cam pin. And probably the most significant thing that I noticed is this nitride DLC looking finish. It's very shiny on the bolt, but if you look closely, the locking lugs on this are radiused. They're not right angle square cuts like on a mil-spec bolt, like the original bolt. So this is the G3, this is the original. You can see that those radius cuts, and why would you do something like that? That strengthens those locking lugs, okay? It seems that SIG spent a lot of time figuring out ways to increase longevity and durability of this rifle, and that is one example of that. Now, me personally, I've never seen a bolt lug fail. I've seen bolts crack where the cam pin goes through on some budget guns, but that's not to say on a high round count weapon that is full auto, like military applications, that you might not shear one of those off. It's just nice to see that that's something they're thinking about. You will notice it has just a standard plunger there for the ejector. It's not a dual ejector or anything like that, and pretty much a standard fare extractor. To take it apart, I'm going to use my tool once again. The pin that holds the firing pin in place kind of goes through at a diagonal angle, and so that pops out over here. If I push it with the tip of a bullet, pull this out, it is captive. It'll only go so far. Now, I will say the HK is a little bit easier because I can get my finger under the safety and push up on it really easily. This one's a little bit more difficult to get to. So you kind of got to push on it and then use your tool, in this case, a round, to kind of pull that out past the safety. A little bit of a pain in the butt. But once you get that out, it really wants to grab on. You can see the recoil, I'm sorry, not the recoil spring, the firing pin spring there. Once you get it to a certain point, there probably is an easier way to do this. I'm just being your typical moron. And it's really oily, so I'm having a hard time getting a hold of it. There's your firing pin and firing pin spring. Now you can pull it off, but it's just coiled tightly, so it wants to stick towards the end of the firing pin. And then you can take your cam pin, rotate that just like normal when you're going to take this apart, and pull that out. And what you're going to notice here, not only that hourglass cut, but look at this. It's rounded on the end down there, where normally it's just a flat square surface. They've changed that. And this is a significant change. So this looks more like a 416 bolt, slightly shorter. I'll show you what an HK 416 bolt and carrier assembly looks like disassembled next to this one, but there is a definite lineage there. This is slightly shorter and lighter than the HK style, but it's definitely in the same style. If you take a look at the original 516, this is just basically a standard mil-spec bolt. So they've evolved it nicely. And yeah, I mean, the fit and finish of all these parts, I mean, you can see that shininess, and that's that really tough finish. You can take a bastard file to this finish and run it across there, and you're not going to push it off. I mean, this stuff is extremely tough. That surface finish is extremely hard. Put it back together, you just simply reverse the process. All right, let's take a look at the gas system on the new 516 G3. There's a couple of things here I want to point out. Now, to get the gas system out, to disassemble it for field maintenance, you don't have to take the handguard off. I've taken it off so you can see the barrel profile, which has changed. And there's some interesting other changes here that I want to highlight as well. So to take the gas system out, you have a little detent right here that you can push down. Now, what's interesting is you can go from just regular gas setting to suppressed without having to push the button. If you want to go to the off position or if you want to go to the adverse position, you're going to have to push the button to get there, okay? To disassemble it, push the button, rotate it around, and it'll start to come up, and you can see the whole gas piston arrangement will slide right out of the gas block. Now, for basic maintenance, the only other thing that you have to do is just pull these two parts apart. Now, if you take a look at this gas system, here's the original 516 gas system. So if I lay them side by side, and I'll show you a picture that better illustrates this, you'll find that these, they only are very similar. Everything down here is identical. The only difference is this is slightly longer on the end. It has the same positional locks, the same button release system on the earlier gun. It's just that this is a little bit longer here out on the end. Now, when you come back here to the receiver area, you're probably going to say, well, where's that star nut that holds the barrel in place? Glad you asked. This just comes off. And now you can see the star nut, but you're also going to notice that this is your barrel retaining nut, but you'll notice that the barrel's here and it almost, and I haven't talked to SIG about this, so I'm making some assumptions here, but the barrel is pinned into what looks like this extension. I've not seen this before. So you have these two pins driven through here that are holding the barrel into this extension. The extension is held into place by the star nut. So that's really, really interesting. If in the front here, you can see where the gas piston goes through the receiver, and there's a little piece of metallic reinforcements in there. Putting it back together is very simple. Just take this. You'll notice it's tabbed on one side, not the other. That goes into the tab here, the same tab slot that keeps the handguard from rotating. It keeps that from rotating. And then you take your gas piston, take the flat side, face it down towards the barrel, drop that in. It'll just slide right on through. Drops into the receiver. Just turn it and push it down. Hit that button, and now it's in its standard gas setting. Put the handguard on. Just slides right over. You have a little threaded piece you hold on one side, screw goes through on the other, and you just tighten that down. And that puts it back together. Again, I believe this is extremely well thought out. So let's talk about the accuracy of the rifle really quick. We had some ammo out here on hand that we did our testing with. We have some AAC ammunition, some 77 grain OTMs. This is Palmetto State Armory ammo. We have some Federal 69 grain gold medal match. I will say I typically get better accuracy out of the 5.56 or 223 Federal gold medal match with the heavier bullets, like the 77 grainers. The 69 grainers don't generally give me the best performance, but that's all I have out here. And then some Nosler. Historically speaking, this has been absolute garbage, but it seemed to like the 5.16 a little bit. So let's take a look at these groups. Now I used a through the scope camera. We usually do a spotting scope that we put a phone on and record, but this time I used my side shot and my primary arms GLX 4-16 power optic. I have this optic set up that we throw on our test rifles to do our testing, so we can slide a phone in here and record through the scope so you see what I see. So I'll stick a little bit of that video up here just to show you that I actually shot the groups from 100 yards. Not that these are all that impressive. All right, so first group we fired was 69 grain Federal gold medal match. We had some vertical stringing here and a wild shot that I can't account for, but it overall measures 2 inches center to center from the two shots furthest apart. Next up, Nosler, 70 grain, 2.08 inches. So basically the same performance out of these two. Now this is a more traditional group with the exception of this one round that, once again, I cannot account for. This is just a reused target, so I scribbled those holes out. There used to be a sticky there from when we were using it a couple of days ago. Then I wanted to, well, the next group I fired was the 77 grain AAC OTM, and that gave us almost a 3-inch group. And so that wasn't all that impressive out of the rifle. It just doesn't seem to like that ammo. And then just for giggles, we did 10 rounds of 55 grain Federal ball ammunition, just the standard range stuff, this stuff right here, because you guys ask for 10 round groups, and we do try to listen to what you guys request. People say 3-shot groups aren't groups, and then you'll get the group that'll say 5-shot groups aren't really groups. You want 10-shot groups. Well, I'm not going to waste a bunch of match ammo, but I will waste ball ammo. And this 2.9 inches, which is the exact same group size that we got with the AAC 77 grain OTM. So with that being said, what do I think? Well, I suspect the rifle will probably do better with the 77 grain stuff. I will make a request to Federal to get my hands on some more of it. And this is a brand new rifle, 200-300 rounds down the barrel. Once that barrel settles in, we may get better accuracy. So I'm going to look for ammo it likes and then settle that barrel in a bit more. And if I get better groups out of it down the road, I'll definitely let you guys know. Now, I also know that you guys are going to ask questions about how does this stack up to the HK, the new A4. And we could do that video. Comment down below if you'd like to see it. I've been thinking about doing it just for our Patreons only, but let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see how this rifle stacks up to the H&K and what my thoughts are. So with that said, let's go into the next segment and talk about what my final thoughts are on the new Sig Sauer 516 G3 rifle. All right, so what do I think about the new 516 G3? Okay, as I've already said, I'm a DI guy, but the short stroke gas pistons are interesting to me. And I've always said in the past that if you want a gas piston gun, go buy one. Don't shoehorn a gas system into the AR-15 that doesn't belong there. Gene Stoner's design was genius, and I still believe his original design is a genius design, but I'm starting to make exceptions. I do like the new H&K. I do like the 516. A lot of people like the 516. So I am kind of gravitating towards this rifle. I will be shooting it quite a bit more. I am really impressed with how smooth this rifle shoots. I've let other people hear. There's a whole group of people standing over there you can't see right now that all came out to see the 516 because they're interested in it as well. And we all, I think, agree that this rifle shoots extremely well. Now, the accuracy with the match ammunition, not that impressed with, but again, we'll try to find the ammo it likes. What I did find to be average, normal from any rack grade military service rifle was the 10-shot group that measured 3 inches. That's expected. You're not going to get any better accuracy than that out of your best M4 type rifle out there. That's just the way ball ammo shoots. So with ball ammo, this thing is doing a very good job. And I'm hitting targets all the way out to 350 plus yards out here on the MAC range with this rifle. The fit and finish of this rifle is exceptional. The finish is nice and even. I can't find any machine marks. I can't find anything that I would ding it for. And believe me, I look, because it's not that I enjoy finding problems. It just seems I have a knack for finding them. And this rifle has functioned flawlessly. The accuracy is, it's acceptable, if you will, especially looking at the ball ammunition. The ability to remove the side charging handle if you don't like it, I think is a nice touch. That seems to be very well thought out. I look forward to seeing what they do with the T-handle, if anything, but it'd be really cool if they do the gas plug thing on there. The gas regulator, this really sets it apart from the HK, which just has a suppress setting and a normal setting. I think that's kind of the Achilles heel of that particular rifle. If you're using it for a go-to rifle or a duty rifle of any type, I much prefer to have the 4-position gas regulator that you find on this particular rifle. I don't care for proprietary anything, right? And I think a lot of people would agree with that. So the proprietary handguard, I could do without. I would prefer that they had found a way to make it work with other handguards, but I understand the reasons why they wouldn't. I also think it's interesting. I like aesthetically how they've increased the thickness of the receiver up here to mate nicely with the handguard. It looks very sharp, but it also adds a few ounces to the gun. The gun is not super heavy. You're going to find that weight-wise, it's going to be very comparable to other rifles in its class, despite the fact that it has all the extra features on it with the side charging and stuff like that, which again is removable. But the extra weight that it does carry right here is right in the center of the weapon. It's not out of the end, so it does not feel muzzle heavy. It's certainly not back here where it feels tail heavy. So when you have it in the shoulder and you're shooting it, it just feels nice. $1,999 is what I've seen them for online. And SIG did send me this rifle for review, so I did not buy it. Just want to put that out there. But that does not change my opinion of the weapon whatsoever. So you're looking at about $2,000 for a rifle like this to get you into the piston, short stroke gas piston AR realm, which is going to be less than a lot of the competitive products out there. Certainly the H&K, perhaps some of the LWRC offerings that are out there. LMT, all that stuff is extremely expensive, $3,000+ firearms. This is going to get you into that system if it's what you're looking for, with a lot of really good features and high quality for substantially less money. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Are you interested in short stroke gas piston rifles like this? I want to know what you guys think of the 516. Is it something that you would be interested in? Let me know down below. If you'd like to see a comparison to this rifle, to any other rifle out there, the HK or something else, let me know down in the comments. We can certainly make that happen. And yes, the Moon Does test will come to visit the 516 G3 as well, because I've already had plenty of people asking me to do it. So I look forward to your comments down below, guys. If you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There is a link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you got the subscribe button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that button. You can help support us right here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. I want to thank you guys for 17 years of support. Swing by, check out Copper Custom, and we'll talk to you guys soon.